გამარჯობა, მე ვარ დავით ველიჯანაშვილი.
მე კი ლევან ჭედია.
ჩვენ აქ და ახლა წარმოვადგენთ საქართველოს ვისკის მოყვარულთა კლუბს.
და ჩვენი სტუმარი დღეს იქნება ანა კუპცოვა, რემი კუანტროს რეგიონალური ბრენდ ამბასადორი.
რემი კუანტროს ეკუთვნის ვისკი, რომლის სახელი ძალიან ძვირფასია ნებისმიერი ვისკის მოყვარული ადამიანისთვის. ეს არის ბრუიხლადი. ინტერვიუ ანა კუპცოვასთან სპეციალურად საქართველოს ვისკის მოყვარულთა კლუბისთვის. დავიწყოთ. Hello, Anna. Thank you for your time. So, before we start talking about Bruichladdich, how does it feel to be in Georgia generally for you?
All the time I'm here, I'm really glad and happy. It's one of my favorite countries. So, გამარჯობათ ქართული მეგობრები.
Sometimes there is some kind of confusion about ownership of famous distilleries by other business groups. So there are people who love whiskey, they know about Bruichladdich, they heard about Remi Cointreau, but they have no idea what does it mean that Bruichladdich is owned by Remi Cointreau. What does it mean, and what's changed after Remi Cointreau purchased Bruichladdich?
Thank you for this question. It's a really good question because for end consumer, it doesn't mean a lot that ownership was changed in 2012 and that now Bruichladdich belongs to a big group. However, there are some things behind the curtains, I would say. So what brought Remi Cointreau to Bruichladdich is investment, which was like a limitation with the previous owners, so they did a lot of great things, but they lacked investment. And Remi Cointreau tries to preserve, to keep all the good initiatives set by previous owners. And it was even part of the reason why Remi Cointreau decided to buy this distillery, because Remi Cointreau values are terroir, people and time, and Remi Cointreau is looking for distilleries and companies who have the same values, not to learn them how to do business, but to choose businesses which already has the same values. And Bruichladdich definitely had the same values back in 2012 with the previous owners. So it was the terroir, people and time, and it perfectly fit the values of Remi Cointreau. And Remi Cointreau didn't change a lot, so we kept that hand labor, a lot of craftsmanship, this barley-centric approach. So for end consumer, nothing really changed. But I would say one more thing, what has changed for end consumer, this is the designs. So bottles received very bright, eye-catching designs, and 4 years ago, Port Charlotte also received very bold and recognized designs. So this is maybe what changed for end consumers.
Bruichladdich is the distillery on Isla, which makes its spirits entirely on the island. What is the main authentic things that makes Bruichladich's spirits different from others? And the slogan, we believe terroir matters, is the part of this concept.
Yes, we have this slogan, terroir matters, and we have this barley-centric approach, which was set by previous owners in 2001. How it will go, how it will influence the whiskey, if the distillery will focus on barley, if distillery will try to explore it, to check what will be the result if we will grow barley in different ways on different pieces of land and of different varieties, organic barley and not organic barley, for example. And at that time it was a quite crazy idea for the industry, because industry at the time was sure that barley doesn't matter that much as grape for the wine.
There's nothing, and I mean nothing, in the world that excites me more than Islay barley. And the taste and the texture of it is truly, truly different to the barley grown in Scotland. So the Islay barley, the salt in the soil, the way the farmers are looking after it in really weird weather conditions. We're in the west coast of Scotland, the rain is different, the whole thing. But there's just something about it.
To grow barley in Islay, it's quite a battle between weather, geese, deer now. All these things are against us, getting a combine at the right time, but we've always managed so far, and it's a challenge, but it's quite an enjoyable challenge.
This is a true belief of Bruichladdich. So Bruichladdich started to explore this idea in 2001 and continue to explore it now. And I think for this 21 year, Bruichladdich proved that opinion and this belief has definitely the right to exist, and Bruichladdich proved it with its releases. So we have barley exploration series, and with releases of Islay barley, organic barley, beer, super rare ancient variety of non-commercial barley, organic biodynamic barley, and so when you taste them in raw, in one tasting, you will feel the difference. So of course, if you will take powerful casks and casks with a very bold character like Sauternes or Porto or something like this, then you can hide this barley influence. However, it could be other approach, like how to underline the barley influence. So Bruichladdich tries to underline this influence, and the results are really different. So this is part of a big story, and we believe terroir matters, and for us terroir is place, provenance, transparency, but also people. So in our understanding, terroir is both direct meaning and philosophical, I would say.
When I enter Bruichladdich website, I find the space different comparing to other distilleries' websites. I think that somehow Bruichladdich is trying to tell me more about its spirits, gives me more information that other distilleries doesn't want to tell me. Is it the special way Bruichladdich chose to communicate to its customers?
It definitely is. It's definitely a special way Bruichladdich decided to communicate to consumers, because Bruichladdich would like to be the most thought-provoking spirit. So for consumer, not just to drink, but we want to attract those consumers who like to dig the information, who like to get interested how their whiskey is made, what is inside his whiskey. So we want to attract such people, and we want to be open to them. And transparency is our key value for producing Bruichladdich. That's why our website is really full of very useful, interesting and detailed information.
Many think that Bruichladdich became a far modern distillery among other huge history distilleries, but Bruichladdich is trying to keep both traditions, history, and novelty, and how it's going. So where is the traditional part of Bruichladdich and where is the modern view?
Again, interesting and good question, because it's really an interesting mix and symbiosis of traditions and novelty. But part of our innovative approach is just revealing and taking something from our past or from past of whiskey industry in general. For example, once we had innovative release of quadruple distillation, which is innovation for 20th, 21st century. However, once upon a time, it was a historical practice in Scotland, and it was one of historical way how to produce it. Also, we have such a old and traditional elements as Victorian old machinery. We have a bobby mill, that milling machine with a leather belt, which was produced in 1913, so more than 100 years ago, and it's still working. So it's very traditional part. However, to use an equipment now in a modern world, which is more than 100 years old, this is rather unusual approach, you know. So many distilleries now, they use a lot of computers, and they can be run by 4-6 people. Bruichladdich is the second smallest distillery on Islay, but it is the largest private employer on Islay, on the whole island, not only among the distilleries. So there are a lot of manual labor, a lot of people doing things by hand, and it's hard to answer. Is it traditional for 2022, or is it modern not to use computers, to do everything by hands, and to be an employer of around 80 people at the distillery, which can be actually run by maybe 6 people if you would put computers everywhere. So machinery is definitely a very traditional part. And as for modern approaches we use, I would again mention this terroir-centric approach, because it was revolutionary and innovational when we started it, and we were pioneers in this. And it is still not acquired by many other distilleries, but people who buy Bruichladdich, I think they believe in this approach. To speak also about some traditional things, we can mention mash tun, which was produced in 1881, the year when distillery Bruichladdich was founded, and we still use mash tun from that year. And one of our wash stills was produced also that year and still working at the distillery. So we have old machineries, no computers, and barley-centric approach. And I think it's a consumer has to decide, is it modern or classical, and how to mix it and how to name it.
There are rumors that future bottles of Bruichladdich will be without tube. If it's true, then why is that so? And don't you think that it will decrease the sales of the bottles? And especially for whiskey collectors who really love to have their special bottles in the tubes.
Yes, there are rumors, and I'm afraid they are true. We really want to remove tins. One of key reasons is taking care about the environment. The second reason, if you will check even expensive releases of Bruichladdich, we were never focused on premium packaging. So we had expensive whiskies, but they were packaged in just usual tins. So we never had that wooden, I don't know, velvety golden letters or something super premium as packaging, which is quite common for 30 years old whiskey, for example. So we never focused on packaging, we were more focused on liquid inside. But now we want to be more environmentally responsible. And I know that not all the collectors will be happy. However, we will make this process of tin removal step by step. So we will start removal from Port Charlotte 10 years old, which is not exactly a collector's whiskey, it's a whiskey for drinking. And we like the idea that people drink our whiskey, because collecting whiskey, it's tricky, you know. So when you think about the master distiller, how he works with distillation, casks, etc., I think he would be happier if you will drink your whiskey and not store it to your children and grandchildren. But yes, for collectors, maybe they will be not super happy. However, I don't believe that they will stop buying Bruichladdich for collections just because it will be without tins. Fortunately or unfortunately, now we are in the situation when the demand for Bruichladdich, Port Charlotte, Octomore all over the world is higher than supply. We cannot produce so much Bruichladdich as this world needs. That's why it will be not a danger for us that sales will decrease, because the interest for Bruichladdich is quite high. We are working hard to satisfy all the demand, but it's not that possible, so I think that sales will not decrease.
Bruichladdich is one of the most popular whiskey brands in Georgia, but unfortunately the assortment is not so wide here. Do you plan to bring some more interesting bottles from the distillery?
I'm glad to see that it's one of popular brands here, and again, good but difficult question. So we will try at least to bring back Octomore to Georgian market, because for around a year there is no Octomore in Georgian market, because more people want Octomore in this world than we can produce, and this is part of the reason why Octomore is not here. So we are trying to bring Octomore back to secure Georgian needs. As for other releases and something new and interesting, we will check if consumers are ready, if they really want these limited releases to be present, and if they are ready to buy them. Because sometimes people think that they need new limited releases, but when that releases are on the shelf, they're not actively buying them. and actually this was funny story last year in Georgia, when I came here and I saw Octomores which were not produced anymore at that time. It was 7 series with very good prices. I bought 3 bottles for myself and then told to whiskey lovers, like, wow, you have such a good price in Georgia. And then in 2 next days, Georgian whiskey lovers bought all the Octomores from Georgia. But it was after my comment. But before that, for a year or 2, Georgian consumers could go and buy, but somehow they didn't do that.
Black Art, it's my favorite whiskey from Bruichladdich. Every year it's getting more and more limited and aged for 1 more year. How do you think? Are there any new stocks for future bottles, or soon it will be discontinued? And how do you think, what will be the oldest age of this bottle?
I don't think about how old Bruichladdich Black Art will be, because I know how old it will be. However, I need to keep my mouth shut until 1st of November. So let's wait until global launch of Bruichladdich Black Art, and let's see. And regarding the second part of the question, do we still have stocks such as old spirits at our distillery? We have some, but of course, year after year, there are less and less. We call that pre-Renaissance spirits which were distilled before 2001. So now it's less than 0.5% of our inventory, which is really very small. But we try to secure our future and to have such releases in future. And we still have some stock of that time for our consumers. It will be some aged Bruichladdich in future, but it will be more rare and more expensive, unfortunately.
In the end, do you have any wishes for Georgian whiskey community?
Yes, I think I have. I would like to wish to Georgian whiskey community to stay as united as they are, to keep their passion for whiskey, and to invite me one more time at least to Georgia.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Didi Madloba.
Islay whiskey, grown by Islay farmers, matured in Islay, distilled in Islay, bottled in Islay.